Hello, species value nature system. It's Anthony Wall here. I'm from Connecticut, USA Boxing. I've been in the ring since around the Trade Center attack context. My school, one of my colleges, all these colleges are associated with all different kinds of things, vaccine, but also with criminal justice and with criminal justice shared with other nations for what is manifest originally and still left interstates. What was intercolonies already an effective organized crime method per life aggressions, per every position formal, every fact treatment nature, every fact treatment formal, per a method that divided Native Americans from themselves before, without even them realizing, needed to react to things, and with that, as that needed to justify those reactions as fact treatment nature, as a quality of what was only like be capable of blaming the causes of the negative value nature progressions on other things and on others themselves and valuing it having been there since before everyone was born. Before the colonies, they were already starting this breaching method. And with the colonies and with the early states and with now, we have to convert our value nature system over to the one that is using what is going to cause positive value nature progressions and with the ground's value, water's value. It's no joke. They kind of smoke. It's up here. So we have to, in other words, there's also, I want to ask for help because there are media, they have a whole bunch of fake and interbranch actors in their police forms, a whole bunch of actors since the Trade Center attack using policing of Facebook, using policing of online platforms for also making fake identities with a whole bunch of people facilitated the crime rolls with them. And with a whole bunch of federal criminals, some of them, 3 of them were co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. And they were associated with had been post-dated documents from inside the Ninth Circuit that had been hand-delivered on time to the Ninth Circuit, post-dated. I mean, dated on time, time-stamped on time. They had been post-dated from inside the court and shown to the judges, made it look like they were handed in late, but so it was proven afterwards they hadn't been, and then so that was a part of a case /S in the Trade Center attack context, Manhattan, which the Ninth Circuit is right next to it, which is a panel of judges nature of court. So then that went to a part of a 2006 case /S in Connecticut District Court, which is a nature of court distinct from a superior court, distinct from a probate court, for example. In other words, superior court is the one we go into for regular things. Serious things too go there. I'm not a law expert. I'm an expert on the nature of English grammar. A correlation nature, its identity of value, and the value of free speech, which we don't have. We have evidence rackets originally and still. They're victims, but they're victim predators, not by accident, valuing the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts of natures, linked to other things, others themselves. Acts like gun crimes, acts like criminal insidiousness natures, like wrongdoing, and like wrongdoers. These are organized crime terms because this is what really caused slavery, which is also, for example, a term used to keep culture's course, which is invisible but clear, by the identity that inventions work in or not in relationship to. They are further positive or not in relationship to it, and its identity of relationship to itself. And that's the value of that. That's culture, the Trinity. The Trinity's identity. See, each semi-nature of the Trinity is distinct. Jesus Christ says he is the Alpha and he is the Omega. So with the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, this goes with yin yang. That's why yin, the feminine, is first left to right. Simultaneously, while alpha, the male, is first left to right. To show how neither one of those is positive or negative, but in relationship to a little bit more of the complete nature, of the value progression perfect, the bonded matter, and is that it is self-generating its own value through it as our value, as a identity bonded even to our quality, and especially regarding our quality of fact cheap nature. A simultaneously unceasing semi-nature relationship to this only semi-nature that is the only semi-nature that is positive all ways, not denying any exceptions. And that's how it's in demonstration of the complete nature that is value too. And it is value as will only continue to be perfect value progression, self-generating nature of volume. We are the nature of volume. And it controls, forced, more positive or negative, forever nature of volume. And that's the difference between Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space, which is the difference between its simultaneously distinct and non-distinct identity of relationship onto all parts of its body, which it was bigger for then. From before, it was smaller than the smallest thing. It was bigger than the biggest thing within itself. We are value nature inside values nature. All physical, like all the plants together. Before they were generated, this identity of value was self-generation, self-generating identity of value. This is what leads the campus Marcius and the art of crater. We must all liberate together through a system. See, we need a system that's set up as a pantheism science here to heal the species nature of volumes means not even discerned, not even fathomed, because of how we're invested. All victim predators, only capable of discerning it or speaking for the law against or for it, filter through it. Only capable of seeing it in relationship to our others, not capable of dealing with acts alone. Not capable of this of pretending to be science in the presence of free speech with its simultaneously inherent active and progressive means and with sequence true. And with exception nature allowed to be demonstrated its course, inherent to and as the value of each subject, of each verb, identities of volume, as by identity as a volume / the volume. This is how we all need positive. We all, excuse me, we all need water. We all need clean water. We all need clean food. We all want extra value. through and as a value nature system that modern markets positions each modern nation is a victim of. What this organized crime method knew that it was going to have that self-value and the real causes for negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures that everyone was taken from the sophistication to be able to demonstrate. This is what modern religions came about to demonstrate for us, because the human fact treatment nature already lost to campuses, so they were running damage control and excuse me, in other words. And it still is. The first part of the Quran and the first part of the Old Testament are not being allowed voice offensively. We have each of the sciences offensive with offensive evidence reception, physical delusions, criminal foreign influences, and no one realizes how that was facilitated, connected, how that is maintained, connected without anybody realizing. This was doing this from before the ground of education, and then on off campuses and layers in sustained ways. This is what really drove the Native Americans to physical culture ulterior from the physical culture they would have been and were value as before they were forced to retreats, forced to unities that were time consuming, values consuming, impositions gaining. They were tactically degrading everyone's education. And no one understood why. Everyone was blaming other things, others themselves, and just going. Everyone was being forced more and more into value nature systems, including that. Things like money, blame, crime itself. These areas with the shootings all the time, these are victims. These are serious victims of recorded the original organized crime method that American history is really about. Had this been told before, we wouldn't have all these shootings. We would have paradise coming, because that's this identity's identity of relationship to itself. See, but we have the training of, where we have pseudo positive, everyone invested into what's practical now, is the victim of criminal foreign influences again, intersciences. So we emit this together, and we have instant reliefs, which even reliefs are only positive or negative value nature, but we use this science, which is the value of the order to the finite before, and then while as the value of the smallest thing, while as that bonded onto our invisible but still discernible quality of fact treatment nature, while as ours, all through us, while as the value of our progression, individually grouped and together. This is forced, so we could see what forces positive or negative value nature progressions. As Earth's distinct and not a non-distinct space nature relationship to the one identity of value progression, perfect. It will not slow down. So we do this with, like the rest of nature, has no criminal foreign influences. And humanity has had them since semi-ancient times, before modern nations, victim predators. Taken to, every exception about manners and things like that. And then so what they the people value? Well, keep your mouth shut, or talk stupid, or be part of the theater of a whole bunch of nations shared, individually grouped together. Natures of policing agreements Now, obviously, plain clothes too share, where it has and how these are identities of the law. These are self defenses of their fact treatment nature as victims because you can't defend that and and stand someone with simultaneously inherent active and progressive means the sequence true without their identity stolen, not by accident. The value of each age of fact treatment natures of this means inherent to their correlation nature as Trinity. It is stolen. Everyone's following time in relationships to the job value nature systems and narratives that are tactically ulterior from the value obligations by our fact treatment nature forced by this one that is the actual value progression perfect system that is using exception nature. See, even every physical value is a gaining value when we're talking about it. A rock, it's not even living, but it's right now it's a gaining value, positive or negative, with my speech to you. Which this is I'm trying to tell you how to make everything there. See, criminal insidiousness makes positive out of negatives distinctly from nature with no criminal foreign influences. I'm not just saying anything to be theater. In other words, regards this is what this is an organized crime method that is not only against, but in other words, we have obligations to run science this way. You can't separate things. This is also an organized crime method that juxtaposed a whole bunch again, all kinds of natures of interest, motivations, needs, roles, and natures to be of criminal and citizens nature. I'm not a lawyer. They recorded history of using lawyers for fake sides of correlation nature. Again, a Trinity. And again, by an identity a little bit before and as a gaining value from us as forever nature. Only the extent of it is debatable in relationship to our relationship to the value progression system we are invested in, not just on the books, and how the on the books was contained by what is contained inside the system. In other words, each age of fact treatment nature, each individual group dash sex, and all together. People can be content the way we are, whatever. You can't say that they're not honest with themselves and others. Hartford, Connecticut never had, especially the north end of Hartford, and especially how they concentrate distinctions for specifically for fact treatment nature. That was what Hartford was set up for. That's why they had overt slavery in the north here, New York City. The pathology of infrastructure, of course, it evolved, but it evolved in the pathology they forced since before cars. If anyone was found out having been speaking about building infrastructure on their own, just we're fishing with colonists A and Z, okay, colonists A and B are fishing. One of them says something that tell the other guy told that we were going to make he wanted to make a house just real fast to show how they can make a safer, better house. They would hurt that person. No one's going to write that in the books. Who's going to remember? Our founding fathers. George Washington had to come to Wethersfield, Connecticut right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. He had to leave overt slavery in the laws. Now, see, the obligations of our nation were failed to demonstrate that how overt slavery with color is. To explain that, you have to explain how they had all those crazy slavery laws against everyone. even where the people were not had physical slaves, worse, those same people, they had these laws. If they didn't do it, they were slave too. In other words, they were worse than slave. They would kill them, hurt their whole family, make an example of them because they talked about making a house outside of the internation monitored database relationships. They also effectively forced England to be like when they say, "Oh," someone always says it with passions too. England was the identity of Connecticut, of the colony of Connecticut, of these northern states. This was nations already individually grouped and together since semi-ancient times, forced bonded two ways. One natural way, which is still only for the discernment of inherently, actively, and progressively simultaneously, constantly, as the science of what's going to cause positive or negative value nature progressions, its fruits and gifts or their losses. For example, that it's deeper than that. They're breaking that's why they have us in a tactical ulterior from this value nature system. They're exploiting exceptions that we need to see too. You know, they're keeping debatable first. That's why and how they're not letting on a mass scale all the needs and nature of needs with people in what they call poverty as all victims. Even people of wealth when they with that word slash value, because everyone's opinion, states, and areas of each individual group that sex and altogether I maintain hurt. I also maintain the theater that is through this theater. When they say, "Oh, these people are in collusion with this nation," our species' nature of volume is in a trap designed, originally and still. Everyone not even realizing it. They had to blame other things, others themselves, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. So we're going to convert the human value nature system to the one that reveals evolution, that reveals using that what is not only going to work as invention, but it's also going to be positive onto itself. It's gonna bring means out of nowhere unrealized. One thing we need to do too at the same time when we're setting up our pantheism, our means to not people call stability. Stability becomes more and more valuable, but as a word slash value because it's non-existent. In other words, because we're in an identity of negative value nature progression, humanity. So like where they have ports and where they have disputes in between nations and stuff like that, we make a book. Yeah, that's what the armies do now. And we're, in other words, make a system. The rest of the species, there's enough of the species that's stable enough to help nations have the resources where they have all really resources allotted to roles in this identity of negative value nature progression. We have to take positions to realize the means of the perfect value nature progression. All we can cut off, in other words, all we can actually afford. This is since before cars. This pathology of homes, tactically denature relationship to nature, specifically to cause negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, and life progressions in that. Standing life progression cover up nature's quality of fact treatment nature that can't defend itself, not by accident, and us from what from this fact treatment nature organized crime method that is through criminal foreign influences that came from semi-ancient times, specifically as a method keeping each modern nation needing to blame other things other than themselves, not realize for criminal foreign influences, but not through one. There and here, keeping identities forged through contrast, and fact as fact treatment nature, not by accident. This is exploiting. We are filtered through. You know, this is also misprision, interwoven, interbranch, intercampuses, inter everything, because all excuse me, all victim predators, because the mass scale of this having only been realized is before our knowledge, before our founders' births, before our birth. This is why the pathology of suburbs too. Where's it going to go? Tactically nature relationship to nature, all the nature water, put it underground. Every year the soils get flatter, flatter. You know, we have too many time things and threats like that, not by accident. So we have to understand how our species nature of volume is being exploited. And we need to understand means for simultaneous natures of release. It means not just to stick things up because while we already have originally valued natures of industries that you can't value that and say we're liberated in the first place. They talk about liberating anyway. See, misprision, what they do, everyone's speaking through others. They're keeping, and then that's a fact treatment way they're exploiting the nature of volume. People need to speak about crime acts and for lies, ill nature when it comes to what justifies our cities. It's also this organized crime method we need to talk about because it invests in taxes and things like that. Roles with identity of the law, identities of experts that are all built to keep valued, obfuscated what originally and still keeps all juxtaposed motivations, natures, needs, and interests in line with but ulterior from the breaching methods. The breaching method. We have a whole bunch of breaching screens, tools, and weapons as our states of areas of each modern nation, as the value of our value nature systems, and as a shared identity of negative value nature progression. This the human species value, simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space where we are negative value nature. Because we have criminal foreign influences, the rest of nature doesn't. So Earth's value is leaving through us, Lethe of Hades. Attend to return to campuses. Campus Marcius calls you through the breeze. It only feels like game. It's a gaming system. So I'd like to thank you all. It's a half-hour program with no commercials. Half hour, 29, 28 seconds, 29 seconds, 30 seconds, 31 seconds. Okay, so thank you all for the human species value nature system. And, in other words, that's what we can do. We can monetize and get everyone on the same page about because this is what's being exploited by what through again all natures of interest. We are see how we have each individual is simultaneously a sex, simultaneously a species, nature, or volume, as value, where it is invisible but still discernible. This invisible but still discernible identity is in demonstration to us. Allah's name was used, for example, for equality of fact treatment nature that science requires to discern God distinctly. What we think when we're thinking is right always, not denying any exceptions. Is actually, and what we think is all true always, not denying our exceptions. Knowing that we're not sure about, if the exceptions are denied or not. The science requires sophistication there, and then even when in other words, even when you think is Allah, that's why there are other names for gods. That's why there are other religions. Arabic, English, and Latin are bonded the same way. There are individuals, family group, area group, state group, nation group. The group nature is inseparable from the identity of the individual nature. In identity nature, we will examine this. Is smaller than small while has the value of the small, and bigger than big while has the value of the big at the same time, while has the value of our quality of fact treatment nature, invisible but still discernible. Everything is gaining value. Clear. So it means appear. Santa Claus will soon be red. It's there. And more when we're in a negative value nature progression. See how the Santa Claus is about being good, it's about positive, parts of the identity of positive. For a story. But this is per a counter where and how the church didn't have, and states and areas they don't have the legal rights to be legal, to be truth. That's the nature of policing that is foreshared. Knave here, there, value. That's the value of the relationship to the convictions they made regarding value treatments with products, with medicines treatments. All these things before and while I being the value of their value of money treatments. These are not means. One way redeems. One way reveals the fruits of evolution. See, someone jumps in with passions about name drops. What's his name? Charles Darwin. This is evolution. This identity that inventions work or not relationship to, they are further positive or not relationship to. This inherent to the inherent nature of volume we have, inherently, actively, progressively, simultaneously, distinctly, and non-distinctly, while this simultaneously that onto our quality of fact treatment nature active, distinctly and non-distinctly, simultaneously, inherently, and then actively and progressively. And the same thing for our progressive nature of volume. And see, things they don't mix. They do mix, semi, or completely, or instantly, completely. This way, actually would be they don't mix. They do or don't mix. and they mix completely. But then that will be the Trinity. And for a little bit more, they will be able to mix instantaneously. For what is being done here, where our complete identity is simultaneously unseen, a unseen semi-nature relationship to the perfect value progression, the only complete identity of value, which is again, this is only a method to show how using science how this is true. There is one, Allah is with it. That's why the Arabic saved algebra. Everyone went into the dark ages. Everyone's education was lost to build everyone's factory of nature, blaming other things, others themselves, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. What did that there brought them here to do that against the Native Americans? To finish with the containment of what is now effectively having been contained modern nations, self-valuing roles with an identity of negative value nature progression. Self-valuing, math positive through jobs trained to play markets, positions, and stuff like that, which are forced value by nature, but then by this breaching method, and then by markets positions in it, still playing that now through this. And first and worse, and this is with overt criminal enterprises per a method that uses the identity of the ground that they're exploiting first, originally, and through this, keeping them needing to hide the same finite, active, and progressive lives with the branches, with the military, foreign and domestic inclusion they're here, with uses of identity of the ground, with the uses of the live progressions so easily affected, maintained, only let realized needed hid. So then we get misprision liars and styles of it, lying about other people, formal. Identity thefts, formal. Thefts of the value of identities, formal. And they're all juxtaposed. Formal is more involved criminally with the overt criminal enterprises, and what's really behind the natures of gun crimes with areas with the shootings, which is also with the people with the statistics on it, also victim predators facilitated to collusion with the rest of the natures of gun crimes with that. Forgiveness is for this, but not in all cases are with it. But in other words, who can't step out of it? Not then. But we have to, permit free speech. We have offensive evidence reception illness. Offensive evidence reception illness. That's what, they also use color to measure and to maintain self-cultivated, originally propagated, everyone forgetting and afraid to think about, and delusions in place of, and criminal foreign influences in place of, all that we were supposed to talk about with the slavery of our founders, with their stolen identities, with the words forced to them, with the fears forced, the tours towards forced, righteous ones. If you know that they're gonna destroy you, if you're talking about building infrastructure outside of the internation monitored database relationship, it's wise not. not to say anything. Now, see, this is an organized crime method that American history is really about. It doesn't have to be hard, The only way it's hard is not to tell it that way. That's why it was built that way, so we wouldn't be able to tell it. So we would stay caused to negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. They knew that was already blamed on other causes, things themselves. Things like money, that don't think. That's value, but it's not value's complete nature. And that's the perfect value progression, with or without us. In other words, it's always going to stay with us. But if we're not going to be the increasing volume of temporary / lasting, temporary positive that is also / lasting positive onto itself, onto this system, as we're not, Lethe of Hades. It forces negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Natures like wrongdoers, like wrongdoing, like criminal sadistic nature. Acts like predicate acts. Time protracts, forever nature's course returns. I'll drop the force. The source alone is surging through all things. Bach sings, behold, Campus Marcius calls you home, be told. Everyone subscribe, please, to the YouTube channel of Anthony Wall and press the little bell icon next to it. Please. It's important because we're going to have the New York game. We're going to do the species coach. All we need to do is be heard. And this is the ultimate plan. See, we know we're going to have those things like that with those ports and things like that. What do we have to set up? Because we'll put something. There's an industry here. Specifically so we can watch it too. We can convert the human value nature system to one that can afford evolution's means. One way redeems. And this doesn't go by equality. This goes by what the identity of the ground needs. Simultaneously, while where and how are per its method of our species, nature, or volume. We have to heal the identity of the nature of the ground was tactically denatured. All landscape theater, in contrast to overtly tactically denatured. We need to make reverse rivers and things like that. We need to give reliefs to people that are reliant upon natures of industries, natures of chemicals and things for nonsense. But they need to live and stuff like that. So we need to realize the nature of illness that humanity is in. We must realize that as an illness, not a doctor. They're also recorded. We have to explain how medical corruption was also used in this method. Lawyers, fake signs of correlation nature, physical delusions, intersciences, types of law, everyone, types of experience. You can have great experience, know about great things, vaccines, but you know the system as insights into how it works as a network, city to city. But you're missing everyone. What Native Americans A through Z missed, colonists A through Z missed, states A through Z missed. They didn't have free speech to do anything but what they did, which they had to hide roles with. Marbury versus Madison. Free speech. You don't have to know the name. what I have to know is free speech. So we have sequence shifting. We have offensive. Worst is a high weapon, a prison, interbranch, sick. That's what's involved with the shooting, with the areas and stuff like that. Because they came through sick campuses. And that came through what maintains the outcome through criminal foreign influences, but it's not sourced by one. There's the maintenance of it here and there. Because everyone's value nature systems reliance through their six systems. Their value nature systems tactile from the one that causes evolution. All you have to do is say lockdown. Everyone's we're a species in a war zone. The war just ended. We're on the same side. We have a semi-ancient war we just won. Boxing is fun.